Live and in person.
Yeah.
Spark of Madness.
Mhm.
Yeah. We're gonna do the season 7 Game of Thrones recap going into the finale in a little over an hour now. So it's here, guys.
We've made it.
Ready.
We've made it already. I'm Matt. This is Nick. And that's Brandon.
Hello.
And Ben is here. Oh, there he
I'm
is.
really excited. I'm really excited for this. Woo, doggy! He is. Really
That's
excited.
magic. That's just
All
magic.
right, bye. So, we're going to talk about the season up to this point. We've got some questions to sort of guide us along the way. But how about overall? What have you guys thought of this season so far?
I think the season's been pretty good. It's been kind of up and down. I spent a little time kind of going back to earlier parts of the season because some people, I guess, have been really down on the more recent stuff, like getting the White, that whole storyline. So I felt like when they took their time, it felt a little better. I remember like the first episode, we're like, man, they're just setting the table and this is really slow. But now that they're just flying through things, I'm like, man, I kind of miss when it was a little slower.
Careful what you ask for.
Yeah. So it's up and down. Like overall, I'm not like super down. I'm kind of lukewarm. I'm like, this finale is kind of important because they could either screw it up and make me kind of bummed, or they could really hit it out of the park and like, okay, this was a pretty good season. So a lot's riding on this finale for me, I think.
Yeah. Brandon?
I liked it a lot. Of course, I'm definitely biased. A bad season of Game of Thrones is still better than just about any other show that I'm watching, in my opinion. So I've enjoyed it. I'm not saying that this one's bad by any means, but you definitely feel the pace and you feel the kind of the pressure as they're kind of jumping through from big set point to set point. I think it feels a little bit rougher than it has in other seasons. I think I also, if they had went ahead and did a 10 episode season, I wonder if it wouldn't have felt smoother. That if the compression of the seasons is what's making these rough points jump out as much. But even all said that, though, it's great to see some of this stuff happen. Khaleesi's and her army has finally landed in Westeros. We're actually seeing everyone on the same continent. It's exciting to kind of be here. Again, it's been 7 years in the making, right? So
yeah, I would say we talked about some of the pacing and some of the bigger decision making points, but you can't deny the payoffs that this season has delivered, at least, both from just an effect standpoint. It is super impressive. We can't let that go unnoticed. It's just no other show is doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
a lot of movies aren't doing what they're doing.
That's very true. But then also, like, a lot of those bigger story points, they have allowed to, at some times it kind of feels fan servicey, maybe, but like it's still very you're right, it's the thing we've been waiting for, like for seasons and book readers have been waiting for. Now we're actually seeing it, and it's not so hypothetical or when, like, they're actually doing some of those combos that we were hoping to see. So
I think one of the other big questions I have are just kind of curiosities as far as the behind the scenes stuff. They started out obviously doing a heavy adaptation work. The books had already existed, the stories were well told, very well defined. They were adapting that for the small screen. Now that they've surpassed the books, now this is like the second season where they've completely surpassed the books. Some storylines you can even argue earlier than that. It's very apparent to me, at least, that they're working off maybe a skeleton of the idea of the story. They obviously don't have the richness there, so I think that adds into it too, right? So.
Yeah, and it almost feels like they had the drawing before, or they had the idea of this final episode. We'll get to that. It's like we start with this. We're going to collect all the characters in one place, almost every single one. And even in the ones in the trailer that we don't see, they could still show up. Like, we're going to get them all in one place. And then let's just work backwards from there based on where we ended last season.
And I think that's not necessarily a dissimilar style from a lot of writers use, but obviously George has got multiple books to kind of weave these things together, whereas they're, and again, I feel like I'm harping on it, but they're doing it not only in a TV season, but now in a shortened TV season. That's a third less than what they were working with before.
Kind of interesting. Like understanding my relationship with the show, because the first episode I'm like, oh my god, hurry up, get to these big plot points or whatever.
That was me too.
And then when they now retrospectively, now that I've seen some of those huge plot points, it's like, man, slow down a little bit, because they're just like, the story getting into them like makes them not hit as hard. And so like it's like, and then they had the one episode that had good story and like the loot train or whatever the hell they're calling it, that was like one of the best episodes ever. And that's what like the best Game of Thrones is, when it combines both like the spectacle and the character stuff.
I think that was Spoils of War was the name of the episode, but Loot Train was the battle. That's in peace.
Well, and even some of it feels kind of. I could even get behind some of the decisions they've made that feel kind of rushed. I could even get behind that, because that's not totally new either. Like sometimes it's like, oh, that was kind of convenient in like an episode in season 3 or whatever. But in this one, I feel like the weight of some of, like the loot train, for instance, the fact that Jaime didn't die, or the fact that like like there are consequences, but they're not the sort of typical somebody died, or like they're not as harsh as you would think for season set, like the second to last season. And so I think a lot of that got undercut. But let's travel all the way back to the beginning with our first question. Recreate our faces. So Nick, you weren't there for our the very first one, but we did we actually came up with the pre-show that we did. We had our one bold prediction for this season, and I kind of extrapolated based on your death pool selection. And so let's revisit some of those and see whether or not they're holding up, and where we think how accurate we were. I'm going to start with Ben, actually.
My prediction at the beginning of the season was that Cersei is going to get murdered by Jaime. However, as an amazing prediction as it is, I don't think it's. I think it's going to happen next season. I think they've prolonged it too long to build that. However, I do think that Cersei is going to seize the mountain and kill Brienne of Tarth, and that will be the straw that broke the camel's back into flipping to next season of him being on the opposite side and eventually murdering Cersei like he did the Mad King. That's my story, and I'm sticking to
it. So, Ben's been kind of on that. This has been his, like, other than the Littlefinger stuff, like in private moments, Ben has been speculating Littlefinger's been dead for a while now, and just he's gonna die. He's gonna die next week. But his real prediction is Jaime killing Cersei. Where do you guys fall on that? Do you think that has legs still, or not?
I don't know. I think it could happen. I feel like in the intro to the episode or whatever, that he's kind of giving her glances, and I feel like with all the like proof that they're going to display proof. He's seen dragons. He's going to see a white. Like, and he's a reasonable. Like, Jaime's one of my favorite characters in the show. Like, I feel like he might try to
the severity, like the power of the dragons, and he'd follow
like he even said to Cersei earlier in the season, like, what a dynasty are we fighting for or whatever. Now she has a baby in her belly, so maybe he thinks she's pregnant, so that makes it harder for me to see that happening this season. But if you were to find out in this episode that's fake, or she's just using him or whatever, and I could see it. Like, and I think Brienne's going to be there, so there's a lot of like pieces in play that could get him to that point. I don't know.
Gotcha. Now you mean overall, not just for this season, or do you specifically mean just for this season?
Well, I guess just overall.
I think there's some. It's a really interesting poetic bookend if Jaime is the one that kills Cersei. he's the one that killed the Mad King. If he ends up being the one that kills the Mad Queen, I think there's an interesting story arc and book in there. Also, and I feel like we've talked about this in an earlier episode, the prophecy that Maggie the Frog gives to Cersei that we saw in the show, it was a flashback. There was an extra line that was in the books that was not in the show prophecy that specifically said that after her children had passed, essentially was telling her how her children would all die with golden shrouds. It talked about how basically to her last dying breath, so the hands of the Valonqar would be choking the life out of her. Valonqar is High Valyrian for little brother. So there's always been this hint for book readers that now Cersei thinks it's Tyrion, right? But Jaime is also her, even though they're twins, Jaime is also her little brother because she was born first. So I absolutely think not only is it a poetic book into it, I think there's a lot of evidence to think that is what's been hinted at. So I think it's still a strong theory. But as Ben just said, I also agree that I'm not sure if I see it happening this season.
Well, that kind of
Absolutely.
But also, like, an interesting thing, because you said Jaime killed the Mad King. He was just saying burn the people. Cersei actually did it.
Yeah.
She blew them all up with wildfire.
He wanted to blow up the whole town.
He did, yeah.
At the when they were being sacked. You're right, and she actually took a big chunk out. You're right.
So she's just as bad, if not worse.
So,
in a way.
Where do you guys? I feel like Ben's prediction is probably the closest to
the Littlefinger prediction.
No, the Littlefinger. No,
I'm Littlefinger.
How do you feel about? I know Nick, you predicted Sansa was going to die. How are you feeling about that one?
I feel like Sansa or Littlefinger might die in this episode. I'm kind of leaning more heavily.
It's a one-on-one battle to the death.
I'm kind of leaning more heavily to Littlefinger. I really hope that they didn't, because the Arya stuff, the Sansa stuff that's been happening, I feel like that's going to come to a head. And I don't know. I hope that they didn't make the Starks kind of that dumb to be played like they have been by Littlefinger.
So you think Arya you think Sansa or Littlefinger, one of them's dying in this episode? Do you think no matter which one dies, it's by Arya's hand?
No. I think Sansa. If Littlefinger dies, it's probably Sansa.
With the dagger that Arya gave her.
Perhaps, yeah.
Gotcha.
I think if Sansa dies, I don't really know how it's happening. I don't really see that happening as likely as
5 points.
Yeah, I would like the point. I would like the points, but I prefer like the Starks to have a good end to Littlefinger than to beat these guys at a game.
Team Stark?
So,
how about your prediction, Brandon? You're absolutely super bold, out of this world. Who could have ever gone out on a limb like that?
And completely justified, because we saw it happen 2 weeks ago when Gilly saved Sam from all the trials and tribulations at the Citadel that he was facing. She helped convince him that, you know what, we need to get out of here. And you guys can go ahead and applaud now if you want for the bold prediction and the victory.
She saved him. She's like reading a little bit, so like that page, like he didn't have to read that page for himself. So I guess.
Yeah.
He saved it.
Yeah, what he said. What do you think, Ben?
Oh, Ben's gone.
Okay.
Oh shoot, he's. Yeah. There's a story to that. I think my prediction is the best, actually.
Of
course you do.
My lunatic.
Imagine that.
That the Night King will take the throne and Jon will be turned.
This episode.
No, I don't think that's going to happen. Mine was, I don't know. It's hard for me to tell because now I'm totally on the Bran is Night King bandwagon.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm totally into that now.
Even with the fake Photoshop stuff?
I'm into it. I'm totally in.
You want to explain that to the viewers? You want to try to justify that?
Justify? No. No, it just seems like and maybe it's just the poor writing or the weird, the different things they did in the last episode with the Night King and how it seemed to be how do you explain like why they didn't converge and just kill them? Oh, well, maybe it was a trap the whole time. Why didn't he throw and kill Drogon, who was right there in front of them, or attack the people right there in front of him? Instead, he throws it at Viserion in the distance, and like, oh, maybe he has like an alternative plan.
How does that support it being Bran?
Because it
Because he hates Viserion?
either just because he's an idiot. Well, I think
Bran?
it's support. Either the Night King's an idiot and is just like flailing and making random decisions that make no sense, or there is more to it, in which case it could be Bran as the Night King, because he has an end game. Like, he knows the sequence of events that need to happen to further like the plot that he already sees, and so he has to kill this one so that they escape, and then that leads to this, and then that leads to humanity being saved and the thrones not being so chaotic. Like, there's a reason to it in the end.
So if he is the same
You like?
person,
I can't tell if that is condescending nodding or. That's a cute thought, Matt.
how is it like he's mentally controlling the Night King, or you think something?
No,
like
there's a time thing that he's the Night King, and like they're in the same.
So in this theory, is the outcome that he's trying to navigate towards a positive one for the living?
Yes, for the living.
He's basically in that role as leader, leading to a place that needs to happen, but not ultimately win.
Yes. Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, because I also don't really know it's just shake your head. All right. Either way, from my bold prediction, I'm already abandoning my prediction. Like, I already realized
Bran can sit on the throne.
I'm making a stupider prediction on top of my already wrong prediction. Is where I'm going.
But it is interesting though, because I think Ben's prediction he now no longer thinks is going to happen this season. Your prediction, you think we're going to get that this season? It sounds like no.
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And you don't
not.
think
No.
necessarily that Sansa's dying this season. So it's interesting that all three of you, your predictions, you now think you maybe still believe in, but you believe in them for next season.
Yeah.
Maybe less you, but especially you guys.
Well, it also seemed weird that we've waited a whole season without Jon finding out who he is, or like that he's a target, and like multiple people kind of know that, and so like just that's sort of been a theme of the delayed information sharing has been kind of a surprise, but also once you see the context of the first 6 episodes and like what they packed in, and story they still had to tell, and then story they chose to tell, like you can kind of see why that got shelved a little bit.
So here's an interesting question, kind of a tangent. Feel free to nip it in the bud if you want. Now that we feel like multiple people know Jon's true parentage, how do you think he finds out? There's different ways in which he found out. What do you think is going to be the method in which? Stumped you.
I think it would be the coolest, like what I've heard, where somehow he almost gets burned or something, and then he can't. I think
that was the big Reddit idea for the showdown in the dragon pit, was that Cersei tries to burn Daenerys and him with wildfire, and then they both are unburned and they survive. Which I know we even talked about this, that like he's not. I know what you're gonna say, Brandon. He won't. He won't burn. Yeah.
If being a Targaryen kept you from being burnt, then we wouldn't have seen Viserys with the golden crown getting burnt.
And I think like
he's suffocated. He's suffocated in the gold, like
actually, he still had a hole in his mouth though when he fell over and went.
All right.
It wasn't fire; his brain melted.
Okay, all right.
Gold fused brain.
Speaking of awesome moments, let's go into. So I'm realizing some of those selections might have been surprises to you guys, but I felt like they were pretty good. Let's start with, we've been doing this character stock up, stock down every episode, and it kind of fluctuates. But now let's talk about over the course of the whole season.
Usually we focus it to the episode.
Yeah, just the one episode. And we've seen like Jaime pop in and out from up, down, like every week, it seems like. So let's actually start with Ben's stock up.
Sorry, I left my lights on. I had to go all AAA. I locked my keys in my car. It was an ordeal, so I'm sorry. I know this is a big deal for you guys, but about my needs, not yours. Okay. Anyways, stock up. I would say is the Night's King. Because he got a freaking nice dragon, a zombie dragon, flying through the air with the pudding pops. Yeah, he's freaking amazing. He's they're all gonna fight amongst himself, and he's stocking up his dead army up in the north. So I think the Night King has had his stock up this whole season. One, because he's got a nice dragon, and two, if you go to IMDb, his face is right on the IMDb page. It's not about everybody else. They should call it the Game of Night King. That's what they should call it. Anyways, I gotta go pay the AAA guy. I'll be back.
So Ben's all right. Bye, Ben. Ben's choice was the Night King, which I think is a pretty fair. Like we got, even though I think one of the big complaints that I could to lobby against this season, which they may get into more, is that he's still kind of he's got a personality, but he's sort of like it's hard to know what, as a character, what his motivations are. And like whether as Robbie's been pointing out in our chat, like are the White Walkers really that evil? Like what are they actually trying to accomplish? Why now? Like it's kind of hard. We just are seeing him leading this army down. But I feel like from a character standpoint, he's from badass moments to awesome gains militarily, he's stock up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and to Ben's point, the dragon, it's hard to argue. Going from 0 dragons to 1 dragon is a major bump up.
Absolutely. Well, who would you guys pick?
I guess I would just go with Jon Snow, and just because he now has a believer in Dany of the things that are going on to the north. I didn't necessarily love how they got the White, but now they're basically the situation that is going on up north is the focus. Like they're meeting with everybody. Dany believes him, and I know it's dumb and whatever, but
that was his goal.
That was his goal. He achieved his goal, and no matter
dragon glass. You're making a
yeah. So I mean, he has audience with the Queen of Westeros to show her, and however dumb that might be, but he also he got this little love thing going on with his aunt. And he might find I'm talking myself out of this.
I was about to say I put John in the stock down video. I think from like he's allied with Dany, and there's a lot of some positives, but he's also been kind of and things have fallen into his lap with the dragon glass and things of that nature, but it was an idiotic plan to begin with.
That's not his fault. He didn't write the show.
Yeah,
well, he's still the hero.
Even in the show, he was at a loss on how to convince him, and it was Tyrion's idea.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
From his perspective, dumb or not, it seems to have been effective, right? So
yeah, things have been working out for him. I think the biggest difference with all of us, and I actually changed my position when I chose mine, but I tend to pick the stock up and stock down, not from that was a good idea and he's doing really well in the show now and has an advantage. It's more like, oh, that was stupid. I didn't like how he acted in that scene. I'm that person.
He might marry the Dragon Queen, his aunt, and they still got 2 out of 3 dragons.
They haven't even been on a date
That's
yet.
true. They haven't even talked about it, but
I guess their boat ride they're getting ready to go.
Yeah. So I just feel like
they get spaghetti and do the thing on the
Lady
boat.
in the Tramp.
Yeah.
He's the king of the north, and he kind of achieved what he's trying to achieve. There was a lot of up and down though. Everybody I would pick, I'd be like, oh yeah, but that happened, and so.
Who's yours, Brandon?
So I think there's, to the point you said something I agree with. I think you could make, especially from some smaller characters, you could make a lot of argument for pure advancement.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, though, I think my pick with the ones that have already been picked out of the way, I'm gonna go with Khaleesi. I'm gonna go with the Mother of Dragons. Yes, she is now the mother of one less dragon. However, if you think about where she was at last season, she was over in Westeros on her way over. she did. We did have some setbacks as far as their plan that they kind of introduced and showed us to at the very beginning. But overall, she still has a commanding number of dragons. She still has her Dothraki army. She controls the seas. There is no competition on the seas now with Euron. Actually,
No.
yeah, it's
Opposite.
opposite direction. Cersei controls the seas with Euron, but I feel like she controls the land, and I think the sea battles are going to be less important now because of the way they're structured.
Yeah.
So I would go with Khaleesi. Again, small arguments could be made for other characters. Like, make a good argument for Sam, for Jorah, etc. I'm getting
He's
into
coming.
it. Sorry.
Well, I would say to the Daenerys point, I have to swallow quite a bit of pride to admit that I intentionally wanted to go last because I figured you guys would more eloquently the other ones. But
sorry for that.
I would have chosen Daenerys, actually, which is a big surprise considering I don't like her character at all. But I feel like what she's been able to both accomplish from tactical standpoint this season, some of the other moments, and as like some of the character development, purely from the acting standpoint, actually, I feel like has been much stronger. Some of the like relationship writing, I'm not totally on board, but I feel like she's actually she's pulling it together more so than the writing.
And that code.
The code.
The code alone.
Yep, winning.
Yeah, who else has got a code like that?
So mine is Sam, actually. Which is, I don't know, I feel like it's a kind of weird one, but he went on, we ended season 6 with him going off to the Citadel, right? And he just walks into the library and there's a whole bunch of books. And since then, he basically finds the Dragonglass mine and like comes to that realization that is hopefully going to be key later on. He also cures grayscale, like with just like grayscale surgery for dummies. I'm gonna do this, and it all works out, and it's perfect.
Let's say you got a little bit of the grayscale.
And then he's also sort of our token. Like some people's problems with this season, or at least my problems, is like nobody believes anybody when it comes to information. The time it takes to actually send and receive information is kind of either delayed, or the way people get it is there's like a kink in it. But he's been sort of the person like, hey, I know what I'm talking about, and hey, brilliant people that live in this city, listen to me. Like and
people listen to you. The power that you guys could have.
And he realizes it, and he's like, you guys suck, and like everybody watching is probably thinking the exact same thing Sam is. He's like, fuck this, I'm out of here. He leaves. So I feel like his arc so far, he goes from cleaning and feeding shit to like sticking it to him and like stealing all the books, and the sky's the limit for what he's going to do going forward. I feel like
he's been the major master thief. If you think about it, he stole a Valyrian sword.
That's true.
He stole a bunch of books from the Citadel. He stole Gilly's heart.
Oh, good one. I wish I had that queued up, the like sound effect of the sitcom. So we just did stock up. Let's now go to stock down. So I think we all know where Ben is going to go with this.
Oh, yeah?
With the three of us. I think it won't be a surprise once he comes back from wherever he was. Let's see what Ben chooses.
$152. Jeez, AAA. Who's down? Well, I'm down for paying $152. No, who's down in Game of Thrones? Theon Greyjoy. Piece of crap. Getting so much screen time. He might get an up. Never know. He might save his sister. Sacrifice himself. He might do something opposite. But I hope he gets up and gets killed, and all the Greyjoys are gone, and we don't have to deal with all the damn Greyjoys taking up precious screen time on this beautiful show called Game of Thrones. Huh? Yeah. Am I right? All right. I gotta go to the bank. To make sure my check will clear. For the AAA guys. Yeah. See you fuckers later.
Wow. There goes our rating.
Yeah, bye. So Ben's been on the crusade. This is one of his several crusades, actually. In the negative, I feel like, is his hatred of Theon this season, which they make it kind of easy to hate him, and he's shown no upward turn. And I think that's also part of the writing this season. Is like they compress it so much that they might have had a little bit more of that. Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And as someone who picked him to, who picked him? Who's his pick on the board? Is that
is yours?
I was getting. I thought it was mine. Then I started second guessing.
That was yours. Here we go.
So
yeah,
I agree with Ben fully, and hopefully the writers agree with me as well, and hopefully we get some points in addition to this stock down. This excellent stock down.
Yeah,
he had a. I was getting ready to say he had a sister. Technically, I guess we've not seen her killed off yet.
We'll see. We'll see this season. So Nick, who's your stock down?
My stock down. I guess you're probably not going to agree with this one either. I'm just going to go with Jaime because I feel like he's just kind of been Cersei's pawn all season. And so like he did have the fortitude and the forethought and the strategical planning to go take Highgarden while Dany's people were going after Casterly Rock, but that was like his big win this year. And I just kind of feel like he's being manipulated really bad, and he's starting to finally see Cersei, his love, his sister, whatever, for what she is. And I do like Ben's prediction a lot, and I do see that's coming. Maybe this episode, maybe not. I have a hard time seeing it come this episode, but you never know. And I feel like, yeah, he's down, but that could change tonight if he just bucks up.
Steps up.
Yeah. Just take that gold hand and pow. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with this. This was, again, I would have gone with this if I wasn't bringing up the rear. So, who's yours, Brandon?
My pick, I mean, again, there's multiple people that you could throw in here, like the Tarleys, for example, but my pick would be Cersei. I'm going to say Cersei's stock down because of where she was at the end of last season. She had, granted, her last child had died, but she didn't seem that tore up about it. But she had basically wiped out a ton of enemies. There was no real good answer that was apparently available. She was at her epitome of height, I think, of power there. I think this year's mostly been coasting down from that. Yeah, she was able to pay off the debts with what they stole essentially from taking off Highgarden. So they've made some good strategic moves, but I don't really accredit them to her as much as I credit them to Jaime with some of those moves. And Tyrion said as much when he talked about how he was being outsmarted. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like that's Cersei's action so much as that's Jaime's victories, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I feel like she's isolated. I don't think she has any control. And I think, the whole idea of kind of turning attention to the Nightwalkers is like a godsend for her, because otherwise I don't think there's any way she's beating Dany or Rhaenys.
Yeah, and she got quite a few mulligans. Like like, oh, Euron shows up and like, I'm gonna just go destroy this fleet for you
and be extremely successful.
Yeah, and perfect. And
Twice.
here's the one prisoner, which stupidly people like me didn't predict that. Here's Ilaria, the person that killed your daughter. Now you can torture her now too. And so just, I get what you mean.
So I feel like there's been these scenes where you see her in power, but I feel like she's on the decline from last year. I think last year was like kind of like the epitome of her getting back, but I feel like it's been downward since then. And maybe some of this is predictive in a way it shouldn't be as far as this pick, but I don't see her pulling out of it. I see her trajectory fixed.
Yeah, and I also think her story this season has been very it's been kind of tied to one of the least interesting things for me, which also like hasn't paid dividends, which is the bank. Like all the bank stuff. Like I guess it led to the loot train kind of battle, but it was like we haven't seen the payoff because we have all the gold, we can pay our debts now, we'll fund your war. Like
I think that's level setting for something to come.
Yeah. And I guess just from this season's it's sort of like kind of tedious. Like she has been a part of the like most tedious storyline in my opinion.
Well, we've also talked about this. Cersei, the actress, the character, has not left King's Landing since episode 1, season 1, right? So
we'll get to my kind of thought, but you'll prove me wrong in front of everybody. But before we get,
she's the Night's King.
Yeah, she's the Night King too. Bran is Cersei.
Night King is pregnant with Cersei's baby.
Look, she's got the spikes on her head, just like him.
That's right. Look at the figure. Yeah, this is like one of those dumb YouTube videos, head. Like zoom in enhance.
She's got a big nose, kind of.
So my pick is kind of along the same lines of where we left off with the character last season, and then where they went this season. And I feel like Sansa was sort of at a high at the end of last season, where after all of the brutality she'd gone through, she gets hurt, she escapes, and then she's able to sort of demonstrate her leadership a little bit at Winterfell, and then also she wins the Battle of the Bastards, and she gets like sweet revenge in the most cathartic way on Ramsay. And so everything,
and now she's getting puppeted along.
Yeah, now she's just kind of like going along, and then even though she's like in command of Winterfell and sort of showing like we should get more food, or why aren't they putting what was it, like the way they were putting the weapons together.
They weren't putting leather on the armor.
The leather,
which is necessary to keep the cold out.
Yeah, so she's like, she had a little of those moments, but from like a pure leadership standpoint, it felt either forced in that she wants to be queen, or you're right, she's like kind of puppeted the whole time, or like struggling to have those family relationships when Bran comes back, when Arya comes back. It feels very like conflicted or awkward, and I didn't feel like how her character's written has been not beneficial, but I feel like her stock's like kind of not as ascending as it was at the end of last season.
I wonder if there's argument to be made that some of this is karmic from a story perspective, because the two remaining, well, except obviously Bran, but she had her best relationship with Robb, probably, of the other Stark kids, right? And Robb's dead. Her relationship with Jon, she kind of sided with her mom, who was standoffish to Jon because she thought he was a bastard. Her relationship with Arya obviously was conflicted. Brandon, I think she had a good relationship, but he's changed. So Arya's super isolated in the fact that the best relationship she right now, at least that we're seeing, has with a family member is Jon, who, again, she didn't treat real well. He just happens to be a really nice guy, and he's gone all the time. So she is super isolated, and I think that's something even from last season is different, which feels kind of down.
It feels like she's constantly like wanting credit for everything, and like wanting to be like applauded for her things that she's doing, which Littlefinger does. He like kind of pets her. He's like, oh yeah. Like, I don't know. It's interesting. She's butting heads with all she's kind of reverting like back to her season 1 pettiness and a little like. I don't know, it's interesting.
Well, and also, wasn't she the one kind of speaking for Winterfell and the people of the North, and that he needs to like Jon needs to stay there, and like I felt like the collective consciousness of Winterfell, everybody there was kind of aligned with her thinking on a lot of things, and then once Jon left, it like people were turning on her. Is that right? That's
not the sense of it that I got. So okay. A couple things that I got. One was Starks have not done well when they travel south. Didn't work well for Ned's brother and father. Sure. Did not work well for Ned. Basically, did not work well for Robb. Whenever a Stark heads south, it's doom and gloom. And so they had just crowned him the new king, and it's not that much longer after that he's already talking about taking off, right? So everyone was kind of against that. Even Lyanna Mormont was like saying the king of the North should be in the North and all this other.
Yeah.
So that was something that she voiced in front of him. And I remember it was kind of frustrating as a viewer. It's like, why don't they have this conversation privately? Why are they having it publicly? So I feel like that was something she had some support with. In this most recent episode, she kind of turned and she was trying to defend John, since that decision's been made and it's already a done deal. But we got reason to believe that the people that were kind of pushing and making it a conflict was being nudged that direction by Littlefinger, because the same two people that brought it up publicly to her and kind of complained about what John had been doing were the same two people later that Arya saw Littlefinger talking to.
Yeah.
So that strife isn't really Sansa's fault. I feel like it's being generated by Littlefinger to kind of create that drama.
Well, enough.
really?
Not really at all.
Do you think she's
You're not.
gonna die tonight, Matt?
We're not to predictions yet. We're not there yet.
Who's getting points? That's what all matters.
But no, it's only points for our imaginary award. Enough negativity. Let's talk about our favorite moments.
Yeah.
Boom. Okay. So let's talk about our favorite scenes or moments from this season. And as
And
always,
whether they had impact.
and no, I've learned not to bring up that anymore. Let's hear what Ben's favorite moment was.
Favorite moment. Well, Matthew, you did discuss that.
Oh, this season has been filled with cruel moments, but there's nothing of consequences in it. Like, this, that, and that, and this. Well, Matthew.
There's one moment that was truly amazing that had dire consequences to the whole show. And that's my clip. One of the dragons getting nailed by the Olympic champion, Night King, who's stock. Roll the clip, please. Why did he have to kill that dragon?
So, yeah, I think that's probably what the biggest plot point scene this season, right?
Series.
The
Dragon's
series,
death.
yeah,
I mean, that's-
a dragon's death, and then which we didn't show the rest of it.
Other maybe an
ultimately
argument for
turned.
Ned, because obviously you thought he was in that typical hero.
Yeah, that's true.
arc.
Also, again, we have to call out the graphics. Like the weight of the dragon kind of slipping into the water. Even it's not even in action, flying or blowing fire, but the way they nail it, just kind of laying there. It's just
Every
impressive.
little detail. I mean, even you, Ben, earlier were talking about the webbing in the dragon,
Yeah.
on the dragon's neck. So.
Yeah.
It's like cool, the spear hit and like fire came out of like the wound and
It's like it
blood,
exploded
like
a little
lava
bit.
came out.
Yeah.
Brandon, what was yours?
So my moment of the season, or that really stood out to me, was in episode 4, Spoils of War, when you had it was the entire scene was my favorite, but the moment within the scene where Dothraki horde are coming down and Jaime and Bronn realize that they're screwed, and then on top of that, as if it wasn't bad enough, here comes Dany on Drogon, just looking completely badass and gonna lay waste to everything.
All right. No more. No more.
So violent.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Throwing at least 7 people on fire on the screen at one time. They haven't done their job.
Burn it all.
The sound effect they do when the fire, when he blows fire, like I love that sound
There is
effect.
this, and if you go back, they have used that sound even back to when she got the Unsullied, and the guy was like holding the dragon, and she goes Dracarys.
Yeah.
Even then, that sound effect right before the dragon breathes fire, they've been consistent with it. You
Yeah.
hear that, I think, fire before you even see the flame.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Nick, your favorite?
So my favorite moment was when Lady Olenna confronted Jaime after Jaime had taken Highgarden and kind of told him the true story behind what happened to Joffrey.
Will there be pain?
No, I made sure of that.
That's good. I'd hate to die like your son, clawing at my neck, foam and bile spilling from my mouth, eyes blood red, skin purple. Must have been horrible for you, as a king's guard, as a father. It was horrible enough for me. A shocking scene. Not at all what I intended. You see, I'd never seen the poison work before. Tell Cersei. I wanted to know it was me.
Oof. Cold.
You think Night's King's cold?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, frosty. I feel like I want you to know it was me. That should be like in our everyday culture all the time. Like,
Yeah.
And that scene also, not at all what I intended. Everything holds right there.
yeah. So my favorite moment is a little one, and it's actually so different from is one of those like kind of wink wink moments that the show's done this season that I think is perfect, and it's also one of my favorite characters. So
And in the presence of Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, rightful heir to the Iron Throne, rightful queen of the Andals and the First Men, protector of the Seven Kingdoms, the mother of dragons, the Khaleesi of the Great Grass Sea, the Unburnt, the breaker of chains.
This is Jon Snow. He's king in the north.
it's so good. And it's also that like the moment there's like they made it seem so epic in the trailers and stuff, like Jon Snow finally meeting Daenerys.
But even he, when that introduction, he kind of like looks back at Davos.
Hey,
That's all you
gonna
got?
say something? This is Jon Snow.
Direwolf? What's...
Yeah. I just that was you sort of get into the rhythm of like what Game of Thrones is, and then they kind of throw in little moments like that I think are
Oh, absolutely.
so. Let's get to tonight and going forward, finally,
Getting close.
with our last question. Bam. All right, let's make some new predictions. And I know Ben's got a big one, so
I've got a prediction for you folks. A really good damn fine prediction. Littlefinger? Oh, that guy's dead. And he's been dead. And Arya has already killed him, and Arya is dressing up as Littlefinger to face this man stuff, and she's manipulating things and testing Sansa. That's my prediction. Now, it could be like they'll set it up where he'll get killed this episode, but I think it'd be cooler that he's already dead. And it's kind of anticlimactic, but still like badass if they did it. That's all I'm saying. God, what's happening? Huh, what's happening? Does someone...
You guys,
Game of Thrones isn't the only ones with the CGI budget.
we spent so much time putting these together. Just fade out. I'm also in Ben's camp with this prediction. I don't think it'll happen this week, but I would love if that came true.
Arya has been posing as Littlefinger or will pose as Littlefinger?
Is posing already.
So some of the Littlefinger scenes we've already seen has been Arya.
One scene has been Arya.
I like that theory, even when I don't agree that that's what's going on. But I do like it. I think it would explain some of those scenes a lot better.
Where did we see him since he caught Arya getting the letter?
The only time we've seen him was
Sansa.
last episode meeting with Sansa, where he brought up Brienne will protect both of the daughters. Yeah. So I'm actually on board with that. I don't think it would have to kind of show itself, although I think if they don't show Arya and Littlefinger in the same room at the same time, I will continue to doubt. Continue to believe.
It's not doubt you're continuing.
Says the guy who's like
fervent belief.
Says the guy who's like, why doesn't anybody just believe Sam? And like, what's it right in front of their faces? And I'm like, no.
Believe what I think you should believe.
Nick, what prediction do you have for tonight or going forward?
Yeah, I guess I kind of talked about this earlier. So unfortunately for Ben, he's going to be proven wrong very quickly. I guess you too, Matt. In terms of Littlefinger being dead and having his face worn by Arya, because I feel like Sansa's going to kill him tonight. Just going to jump out there. It's happening. Sansa's killing Littlefinger tonight. And I guess you guys could be right. Maybe she's accidentally killing Arya.
I was just going to say, what if your predictions are combined and she's killing her
that would
sister?
that would be awesome.
That would be tragic.
That would be tragic, and that would
be an awesome twist for this show, though. I think
they can't.
Oh man,
that would be so dark. That would be so
you
dark.
gave arguably one of the greatest assassins. Let's think about this for a second. You gave arguably one of the greatest assassins of Valyrian dagger, and you've also shown us that when the White Walker, if the White Walker gets killed, everything underneath him gets changed back. So you have the greatest assassin of Valyrian dagger, a Night's King target, and then she gets killed by her sister on accident.
That'd be really good.
But I just said Littlefinger, so their thing is cool.
No. Your prediction's changed now. We've taken it over.
My prediction is now different. Okay, well, we'll go with that one.
Brandon, what's yours?
My prediction's a little bit less. It's more vague. I think we're at a situation much. I talked about this at the beginning there. I felt like this entire year was going to be a Empire Strikes Back type of year. In other words, this is the penultimate season, the big things next year, the big resolutions. So I think, much like an Empire Strikes Back, when Han's taken off Frozen and Carbonite and everything, that this is where they're going to leave us in a dark place. So I think most of these, if not all of these storylines, are going to twist on things that are dark and feel like we're in despair, so that we don't really know how they'll pull out of it for set up for next year. So that's what I expect out of it.
So what specifically? It'll go dark. Or any what do you think is most likely to be like a no?
Don't push me on this one.
How many of the people in King's Landing out of the 20 people there are dying?
I actually think this is a good prediction element.
Sure. Out of the King's Landing scene, I'll say this. There's obviously a lot of setup and intrigue for a Clegane Bowl. My prediction is they don't pay that off. They hint at it, and it gets hinted at, but it doesn't get resolved. So I guess if I had a prediction, it's that neither the Mountain or the Hound are taken down or destroyed in this episode, and it's more heavily hinted at. Like maybe there's going to be a beef, and then it's called off before they fight. I think it's teased, not resolved, or actually given.
There's going to be a riot if that happens. If the Clegane Bowl doesn't happen and it was teased that it could have happened and it just doesn't, there will be pitchforks.
I feel like it's more likely to happen now that George is not involved. Maybe he wouldn't have done it, but Dave and Dan are like,
just want to get
polar bears, dragons. Like, it's like all about fan service, and that's like one of the biggest fan things they could do.
There you go. That would be my prediction. My prediction is we don't get a resolution of Clegane Bowl, but we do get a hint at it.
So I think there will be, for one, I think
Should we explain what Clegane Bowl is?
Yeah.
So the Clegane brothers, the Mountain and the Hound, are actually brothers. That's been kind of led up in the previous season. The way the Hound got the fire and got burnt was because his brother was an a-hole and pushed him into the fire when he was playing with one of his toys. As we know, the Mountain was poisoned with a deadly seen since because of Qyburn, his machinations. He's basically turned him into an undead zombie. Like, we don't know that he ever officially died in the show. In the books, his skull's actually sent out, so we have reason to believe what's walking around as the Mountain is actually undead. In this one, you can make an argument maybe he never fully perished. But regardless, those two are brothers. A big argument in the fan community has been that that the Hound and the Mountain are set up to fight each other. And that's referred to as Clegane Bowl.
But I feel like you said earlier in that kind of prediction that you thought one of them might die. Did I hear that? Like they were going to hint at it and one of them might get taken out?
I said I don't think they get destroyed this thing. I think they both survive the episode.
Gotcha.
So here's my prediction for this episode. I think that there will be a big. I think my idea that the episode ends in chaos, which you kind of agree with, like it ends with kind of darkness, yeah. And I think it may lead to Dany and Jon taking the throne, but I don't know for sure. What I do think is that Cersei will not be on the throne anymore
at the end
of this episode. And I think it will end in like a chaotic battle that I only think there will be two big casualties. One being the Mountain from a Clegane Bowl. And because of that, would lead to Cersei. That would be the reason Cersei can't stay there anymore. Gotcha. And I think she will sort of have to connive her way back up again at the start of next season. But I think that will also lead to Theon, because of chaos, Theon will go and we'll get that redemptive payoff of him rescuing his sister, but then he'll die in that rescue attempt.
So here's my question.
There were like 5 predictions there.
I always, I'm the one that had 2 and I had to summarize it.
So. You've had 24 hours to consider this question, Matt. When we talked a little about Cersei not being on the throne at the end of this episode and having to fight her way back and being basically an instigator from outside King's Landing. My question to you is, where does she go?
Oh, wait, no, not an outsider. Sorry, I have a different.
You said she won't be on the throne.
Yeah.
And you said next season you expect Cersei to be clawing back for power. Yeah. From where?
Maybe as a prisoner. Maybe she's like just held captive still or something. Okay. Like by whoever takes it. That actually makes more sense.
It was like, where would Cersei be? Because Casterly Rock is taken over. Highgarden, I don't think is a stronghold. I don't know that she could make it there.
Honestly, none of this will happen. I mean, we have to pay off the Scorpion weapons. We have to pay off Qyburn, like that. We have there's so many things that make no sense for my prediction. So
wait a second. So there's a prediction within that comment. You're predicting that the dragons will be attacking.
No, I'm saying
the Scorpions are going to be.
I'm saying that my prediction that Cersei will lose power, I think more likely is that we see the Scorpion weapons being more successful than they were the one time we saw
in this episode.
No, just at some point.
I feel
and
like,
because of that, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
The Scorpion could come back against the Ice Dragon. That's what I make some obsidian tipped spears. Come on, just get pow pow pow.
That's the sound effect that they use for that. Yeah. Any other stray thoughts before the episode starts here in about 20 minutes? I think Ben left for good, so I think we're on our own.
Gotcha. I'm just anxious to kind of see the path that ends up with Sam on the throne.
Do you think we will see Sam this episode?
Have to.
Yeah, I think it would not
Like
surprise me if we get a little bit of touch up with all the story plots that we've been following, and that means we need to kind of know what's going on with Euron. I think he'll be at that dragon pit and part of this discussion.
Yeah.
As far as
I've got
Sam,
another prediction.
I think maybe it ends, or towards the end we see Sam arriving at Winterfell, talking about what he knows. Well, actually, I don't know that he realizes what he knows as far as what Gilly found in the book. I do think we at least see Sam this episode. That would be my guess.
I just realized Sam would find out, like, he's almost always aligned with Jon at all times. But then when he hears Jon is aligned with Daenerys, and Daenerys killed his brother, I guess he's not super close
I don't think
to
he's
them.
I don't think he's going to care about this. I also don't know if he got. Yeah, he did get that notice. No,
he doesn't know yet. But once he finds out, I guess would he?
How he finds
care
out would
about
be
it?
part of it. I think Jon will be able to convince him that Daenerys is in the right, and it won't be hard to convince him that his dad and brother would be.
That's true. Yeah.
But I think that'll line up.
Where do you think the Night King, the Walkers, end up this episode?
I think we're gonna have like a 10-minute scene of the Night King loading whites onto the dragon's back, flying them over the wall, and then just back and forth, taking them all over.
Paratrooping them,
Yeah.
dropping them
Yeah,
like paratroopers.
just taking them over.
Like G.I. Joes.
Yeah, it's just like a little crane system.
I think they have to show them getting through the wall this episode, or else it's already a running joke how slow they walk and move, and it's like the main characters are like flying back and forth.
So-
Birds are going supersonic, and like they're just kind of like meandering.
So they
at the-
resolve the wall, or they show up at the wall, and that's the tease for next.
No, they got to get through it. They got to
Okay.
get through it. Yeah, I think.
It's like at least showing like the wall coming down, or them finding a way around it, or whatever.
So who's at the wall?
Here's an argument for your brand theory. I'm
Yes.
actually going to support you. Okay. If you let's think about this. If the dragon is an essential part of taking down the wall, did they move so slowly because they needed to wait until they had a dragon? In other words, there was no rush, and how would they know that if they didn't see through all time like Bran can?
Just because they can,
I don't know if Matt was here. I know you're
Sorry.
just because they can also do that doesn't mean it's also Bran.
Did you hear the question? though?
No.
So the question is, what if the dragon is an essential part of how they break through the wall, and without it they couldn't have, and that's why they were moving so slow, is because there was no rush because they knew they had to wait to get a dragon, which argues for
Yes,
someone
because
who
they would
knows
have
time,
needed to be able to set the trap, and how would they have been able to? Yeah,
and it argues
exactly.
for someone who knows time and knows all that stuff
Yep.
because Bran would see everything. So that's actually
Yep.
an argument for Bran being the Night King. Wow, I don't even like it.
Count it.
No, do not count it.
I just think there are multiple people. Like he's the three-eyed raven, so he's the most powerful. But I think it's a logical jump that there's other people that can do kind of similar things. And I feel like maybe this is maybe a prediction. I don't know. The Night King or whatever. Maybe he has something to do with the Lord of Light or the things that people are seeing because. Sandor Clegane looked into the fire and saw the peak where they were going by the.
Which means that he can. Maybe that was the part of the trap.
Yes, I
Is to-
agree.
yeah.
But I don't necessarily think that means that it's Bran. I feel like he could have similar powers. Like he's tangential to Bran.
So I've always felt that the Lord of Light is the opposite side of the Night King. Night King is like almost like a walking avatar for the opposition, darkness, etc.
But wouldn't it be? Wouldn't it be poetic if light and darkness was the same thing?
or ice and fire?
Oh.
I feel
Is that a book or something?
I don't. It's
know.
a song.
If it would be cool if like all these like visions and things though are like people like these people, everybody kind of has a little bit of an ability to tap into these powers that they're seeing as like religion or whatever, but it's really like this cosmic energy that the Night King has really powerfully and Bran has really powerfully, but like these, I guess that doesn't explain bringing people back to life, but
Right. I'll say this: one of the problems I have with the Bran as the Night King theory is that it interferes with a theory I have about how the entire show will end. Which maybe that's a teaser for we can get into predictions for the following year and a recap on Monday.
That's right. I do want to this more for myself, but who is at the wall right now?
At the wall, so
Is Tormund there? is he the only big character that would have stayed back?
Do you mean
or Barrack,
Eastwatch?
or...
Because they also have Castle Black, Dolores Ed, and some of the people that we knew from the Castle Black would be. At Castle
I don't care
Black.
about them.
At the wall we last saw there. I mean, I feel like the impression we got that Davos is going to leave with Jon.
Yeah,
Barry
he was in the shot.
Barry Dondarrion is seeing
trailer.
Jon off and saying we may meet again or something. So maybe there's an argument that he's staying at the wall with Tormund.
Yeah.
So you might have Barrack and Tormund. And Gendry's the jury's out. He could go either way, bro.
I think I saw Gendry with them, maybe in the
Gendry
trailer.
or Gendry?
Yeah, whatever. Good Gendry.
Jigga Gendry.
Good Gendry.
He's actually Arya this whole time. Because
Or
Theories.
Warden Bran the whole time.
Bran's worked into Arya.
If I had to,
Gendry's
if I had to,
face.
if we, especially if we don't see him with the dragon pet, I would say that Tormund, Barrack, and possibly Gendry are all still at Eastwatch.
Well, it'll be...
To your point, though, if we're going to see some type of resolution at the wall, and I think that's where you're hinting at.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
They could definitely be in jeopardy. I don't know if they're on anyone's board. But.
I don't... no. We actually... Nobody had either of them. We've got 80 minutes of awesome episode coming up here.
We should get ready.
We should get
get on board the GOT hype train.
Boom. So we will no recap episode right afterwards, but we will do a live show tomorrow night for the finale. So tune in that time and enjoy the show. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Enjoy.
Bye.